Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm so happy to see all of you here. It's really, really nice. This is the first in a series of conversations with the artist that my gallery is starting. And what I'll be doing is, for each show that I host, there'll be one night where the current artist will do a conversation with the artist so that people can come and meet the artist, talk to them about their inspiration, their process, their technique, a much more intimate way to get to know the artist than just viewing the work. So I'm very happy to present Alejandro Salazar, who is my current artist. I'm so excited to have his show here. And it's been a lot of fun, and he's not only a wonderful artist, but a good friend. And thank you all for coming. Mm-hmm. So I'll get us started. Alejandro, can you tell us a little bit about your inspiration for your work? I mean, it's so bright, it's joyful, it's full of symbolism, bright colors.
Well, before I start with that, I want to say something that I was thinking. I got here and I got here a little, before the time, and I went into a gallery. I'm not gonna say the name, but I went to a gallery and I saw a couple of pieces that were like $40,000 pieces, and they were nice, but I wouldn't pay that much money. And I was looking at some of the work that was around, and I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about tonight. And one of the things that I want to say is that I want to thank you, because for you to take the time just to put up this show, it actually take a lot of guts, and you're being so brave. I mean, just to put this show, because first of all, this show is not it doesn't have a lot of pieces that people might want to live with, because the show is very intense. So it takes a particular, people to buy a piece that is going to remind them of basic, human emotion, People don't want to be connected. People want to be disconnected. They just want things to look like pretty, which is what I was looking at in that gallery. I mean, everything is very safe, and it's pretty. It's really, pretty to look at, but for me, that's not what art is supposed to mean, So I want to thank you for, having me. We haven't had a lot of sales, but that's not the purpose of art. But at the same time, you get frustrated because you want to do good. You want to continue to do what you're supposed to do, and also I want you to do well as well. So that's what I want to thank you for, having the bravery to have this show.
Thank you.
Because
Thank
you probably knew that you weren't gonna sell many pieces, but at least here, right? At least here, But so thank you. So I going back to the question, it's a very big question, because some of the times, and each piece is like a dance, because I like to dance too. Like Jenny knows that I like to dance because she was my dance partner. So I mean, each piece is like a dance. You never know what you're gonna get. And you don't know if you have it controlled until you're pretty much halfway done. And sometimes it's not what you want, and sometimes it is. So sometimes you have an idea of what you want to do and you go for it, and sometimes you have no idea. So each particular pieces, they tend to be personal. Like Picasso used to say, the painting is always you. You keep painting yourself. But that doesn't mean that it's your face. It could be something that you're going through, or just like a basic emotion that you might have, and you might be carrying it. So it's very hard to say what inspires me, but a lot of my paintings, they have a social and a human context. Even if it's a flower, even if it's flower chips, there's always a little bit of a context that makes the paintings a little bit more humanistic. I would say, if I know how to describe that. Because I don't know if I'm good at describing, but
you are.
Yeah.
So there are humanistic elements
Yes, yeah.
that come from your experience.
I think so, but they don't have to be mine. They're like, basic human emotions. Like I remember somebody saying to me once, "Oh my God, I didn't know that you were a depressive guy," right? And I was looking, that's what I paint because I don't want to be a depressive person, right? But if I was looking at the paintings, and if you look at life itself, it's actually worse than my paintings. One thing is that you don't want to look at it and that you want to ignore it. But one time I went to the river and I was in a canoe trip and I went to the river and I was in a weird mood, so I kept just looking at the people in the river. And then all of a sudden there was this guy in the middle of a rock, and it was in the middle of the morning, and they were doing like a crystal meth, right? And it was like a 9 in the morning, like rednecks, and I was like, and for me, I was like, oh my God, thank God that I'm with 20 people here, right? What if I was alone? This reaction would be way different, right? Being that Mexican in another part, and they were like, you can tell they were like total rednecks. Yeah. So that was in my face, and I was like, oh my God, this is kind of sad, depressing that people have. And then I continued going to the river, and there was this lady that had no arms. She had no arms at all, and you can tell that she was like troubled, and she was taking care of a little girl. And I kept thinking, how is she gonna take care of this girl if she has no arms, right? So I was thinking, and people say that my paintings are weird. I mean, life is weird itself, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just making, like an analogy with it, So it's either you decide to say it or you decide to ignore it, They don't have to make you sad. It has, actually the paintings have a little bit of hope, maybe because of the color, but they do, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to think. Yeah.
How do you think that your Latin American heritage informs your pieces? Do you feel like that's something that is different about your work, or that you really try to incorporate in your work?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question. I have a friend that says that he doesn't see me as a Mexican painter. I have a friend that looks at the pieces and he says, I don't see any influence. I mean, I don't see you. And maybe that has to do because I don't belong anywhere anymore, right? I left my country to be in a place that isn't mine. So once you do that, you do something really bad,
Oh.
It's not bad, but you have to learn how to deal with it, because you don't have any roots. Like I will never, like, yeah, these people that are here, some of my friends, they're gonna be my roots, but they're my new roots, right? But my real roots are back in Mexico, right? And I don't have them here. So I think that I think the work says a lot of that detachment, a lot of, because I left my country. So I think a lot of my work is a little bit in denial, because the more I try to be a Mexican painter, the worse my work gets, So that means that I have to be honest to myself. Like if I was trying to paint, like something that's Mexican, yeah, there might be some influence. Like I like, some Mexican painters. Rufino Tamayo, for instance, was one of my favorite painters, but he never considered himself as a Mexican painter. He wasn't a political painter. He was an international painter. He went to New York, and he wanted to make it in New York big, and he wasn't a Mexican painter. He was against all the political painters at that particular time. So I don't know how to answer that question, but maybe I did already. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you influenced by other artists? Are there other artists that you look up to that
Yeah.
you might study and go, oh wow, I think I'm gonna try that?
Yeah, totally. I respect a lot of the contemporaries, and when I say contemporaries, I said anything from maybe from Cézanne to all the way to maybe before like Warhol, probably. Basquiat was, I like his beginning pieces. I don't like when he became a famous star, but I like I like when people paint with passion. You know, there's not a lot of people that paint with passion anymore. Another group that I like and I admire is some of the Cobra movement, which is some of the artists in it's a movement that was based in Denmark, and it's a movement with I think Cobra stands for the Copenhagen, Brussels, and
Amsterdam.
yeah. So it was a group of people that they were led by Karl Appel, and they were painters that didn't respect any rules. They painted from their heart, and they went to with passion. And I think those contemporaries I have a lot of respect, because you can still feel their work. I think after Basquiat, the whole art movement became a bit of a lie. It was more about concept. So you're selling a concept, you're selling a product. It takes a lot of money to produce one painting, or it takes a lot of money to produce one piece of art. And I don't disagree with that, but that's not what I look for when I do something. I still like to do things now. I mean, where I am now, I still like to do things that are made with my hands, that take some time. So yeah, I look for, Picasso is a great inspiration, and Picasso, a lot of people say that I'm like a cheap reproduction of Picasso, which I don't care. But the thing that you look at Picasso in my work, because I'm looking at his paintings, and I don't necessarily want to copy him. I still learning what I want to do and where I'm going to go. But Picasso for me was the only artist that I questioned why he did art. He was one of the few that actually questioned the big answer, the big question, right? Why am I doing this, right? Why am I spending all this time in my studio trying to come up with something? He questioned that, and he found that. He thought he did, and yeah, Matisse. I like Matisse too. He was a real artist. I think he was a better artist than Picasso. But I think that a lot of contemporaries, there's so many things that we didn't do in the modern world that we skipped, because technology happened so fast that we skipped a lot of years in the art world. We thought that we had to keep up with technology, and technology goes faster than anything else. Technology is one of those things in society that it evolves faster than anything else, right? So people in the art world, they thought that we had to do the same.
Right.
And then we started to do one line in the canvas, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you gonna get a feel from that? Good luck.
Right. So, do you feel like your work is not influenced by technology?
It is, but it is because we are exposed to the internet. And actually, Jane asked a question. Jane, she's a writer, and she moved from New York, so I invited her to my studio, and we talk about my work, and we talk about their work. And one time she asked me a question, and I thought, what a weird question. When she sent me that email, I thought, what a... And I had a little bit of trouble. I didn't know that this was coming from Jane. And then I started with the question for a couple of days, and I was like, oh my God, this was a big question. This is actually a very smart question that I never thought about it. And she asked how the internet is influenced, has changed your work. And of course, if you see the colors on my pieces, they're the colors of the internet. They're the brightness of the screen, right? They're the colors that you see all the time. And also, they just pop, they just keep popping. And, I try not to get biased by the internet a lot. I try to go by the books and look what people did. But that was a very interesting question, and it is truly. I mean, even if you don't think about it, the colors that you come. Why I keep using this orange? Well, why I keep using these bright colors? It is because we're influenced. We live in this world of technology where everything pops in the computer, Yeah. So yes, I am. At this point, I can say that I'm influenced by the colors of the screen and the brightness, and even some of the shapes that tend to be flat, Yes, and like the prominence that things could happen. My work, happens fast. Not the one that I'm doing now, but this work happened fast. I had to take advantage of what I was going through or what I was feeling, and it happened. So yeah, it does. It does. In a very weird way.
How about surrealism? Because you know, I see surrealism attributes to a lot of these paintings, like these drawings over here, for example. Is that something, Dali and that whole group?
Yeah, it's hard for me to fit in one, you know, category, I would say, but like I don't intend to do, you know, surrealist. It's like, you know, Frida Kahlo said. I remember she used to make fun of people because she said, I don't paint my dreams, I paint my real life, right? And but I don't do that, you know. But I'm not trying. That's not my intention. My intention. I like the Lee's, you know, technique. It was amazing, and he was one of the greatest painter, but he was one of the greatest performers too. So I think that Frida wasn't a performance; she was kind of real, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't intend to be a surrealistic painter, you know. But there's always something that comes out that is a little mystical, I would say.
No, you wanted to know the artist that you mentioned? Yes. Who was the surrealist painter you mentioned?
Dali, like Salvador Dali, yeah.
How about materials, Alejandro? You've got quite a variety going here. I'm wondering, do you kind of plan your materials out beforehand, or do you just let it evolve as the piece comes together?
What is here is a combination. It's kind of like my life. It's I have things that I found, and I think really things that I pay a lot of money for it, right? Like this piece is a John Annesley frame that I paid a lot of money for it. John Annesley is a framer up in Hillsborough that he does all the work for David Hockney. And he's amazing, and we use him when we can afford him, and he does amazing work. But I also used, like, all this wall is a material that I have found. Like the first piece, you know, Molly Perez gave me that frame, and she didn't want it, so I said, oh my God, I can do something on this piece. The second one was, you know, Nancy Bellen, you know, painting. She didn't like, she gave it to me, I paint over it. The two pieces in the middle, you know, Mary Jarvis brought those canvases that she primed with a material that she didn't like. And I don't spend time, you know, thinking about the process of, you know, framing or, you know, creating my, you know, pigments for the right color. I rather to take the material whenever people give me something, I feel that since I didn't pay for it, I don't care if I screw it up, you know.
Right.
So I go for it. And like these two pieces are cardboard pieces. One that paper, somebody left a lot of paper in Becoming Independent. I stole it. This one is a window that somebody brought to my studio. This was our food table for the gallery. So, and it's not intentional, but for me, it makes things faster, and it makes things less complicated than when I see a beautiful primed. Because that's not my approach to my paintings either. So I rather if the things are already damaged, you know, if they're already.
I'll remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, but I need to think about that now, because now people are getting serious about that.
Oh, okay.
About that they won't last, and you know that this is not gallery ready, or this is not. And eventually, I would like to make a living out of my work. So are things that you want to think about it, like if it's not primed correctly, now I know that the oil can eat the material because it's not organic, you know, and it could eat the canvas, and I mean eventually people are gonna bitch about it.
Right.
So I think you have to.
So far so good.
So far is good. So far is good. But now I know how to pretend that I know what I'm doing.
So you mean your piece on cardboard there might not last for the next 100 years?
This one is safe.
That one's safe.
That one's
Okay.
fine. But some pieces that, like for instance, that large piece that is the guy, you know, holding somebody, I painted with an oil stick, and I painted straight to the canvas. And the reason I did that is because by the time I framed that thing, my idea was gone, right? So I rather to start working on that idea when I needed to work. So I didn't have anything ready, so I started. And now I know that it's not a good idea to paint with oil into the raw canvas because it could eat it. You know, you could do acrylic, you know, because acrylic is not organic, so acrylic is fine, right? But I still don't give a fuck about that. But I need to respect that. I think I need to respect that if I want to work with serious people, you know. But I still don't give them a lot of
You don't want your
credit.
canvas eating.
I don't want somebody to come back and say, you know, this is not, it lasts few weeks, you know. I don't believe in that. I still don't believe that. Like, we know whenever you go to a museum, you still seeing beautiful pieces, you know, Picasso's in pieces of cardboard, like he did with charcoal, and they still there, you know. So, I mean, don't come and tell me that the piece has to last 100 years, because you're not gonna be able to find it. So I respect that. I pretend I do. Let's put it that way. Now you know.
Okay, well, that's great.
Don't tell that to the clients.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering, you started off as a graphic designer. So have you completely left that behind?
I wouldn't say that. I think that what happens is that I started doing my digital collage, and the only reason that I did that is because I had my design studio, and I didn't have a room to paint. So my canvas was my computer, and I had the anxiety ready to create. So I couldn't wait till I had a studio. So I started creating with my digital work, and then it became successful, and everybody liked it. And once I started to get like recognition for my work, I didn't want to do that because I knew that I had something that I haven't done before. So I did a step back and I stopped doing my digital work, you know. And the reason that I stopped because it felt very contrived. It respected design principles. It respected. It still looked like a product. It still looked like something designed. And I knew I was missing some steps before that. So, but now. You never know, you know. You never know. Maybe it could be a combination of both, and really to create. And so far, I haven't been looking for there's so many things still that I want to explore in terms of painting and maybe some other stuff like multidimensional. But I think that it'll be a little while till I go back into the digital work or combine both. Yeah.
Do you take classes or anything like that, or are you pretty much self-taught?
For my art, for my painting, I took classes at the JC, but I did when I was in Mexico I was always like drawing, but my classes were never committed. It was just like a figure drawing class or shape and volume and things like that. And I took the same class each time. I love figure drawing. I love traditional art, and there's no way you can achieve modernity or contemporary art if you don't know the basics. It's like any form of art, writing, music, and dance. If you don't know the basics of an art form, there's no way that you can shape that into a modern form. So I believe in drawing. I believe in having a sketch pad. I believe in shading. I believe in looking. I believe in paying attention, because then when you do something like this, you know what's missing, even though you don't want to do the same thing that you're looking at, but you know that it doesn't have a good balance, or they have a good composition, even though it looks like it's intentional. Even though that it looks like you don't pay attention, you cannot still do. You cannot still, even the artists that pretend that they like Basquiat, even though he was an artist that he painted like a baby, he knew how to draw. Whatever his intentions were that he did with those paintings were intentional. He wasn't pretending that he didn't know how to draw, right? He was very smart, so he knew what the market needed, so he knew how to play that. So the only artists that really are painting like kids and like that are the ones that are mentally ill. you know, because they don't have any filters. They don't have any society, and there's many great ones, many even here, you know, locally, we have amazing ones, but everybody else is intentional, you know. Even if you know, it's like you have a vision and you still make it look like you don't know how to paint, right? So, and some people appeal to that for whatever reason is, but it is an emotion, it's a movement that you're comfortable with, you know. And I could draw actually very, very well. I would think, you know, I'm not a Picasso in that matter, but I consider myself that I know how to look, you know, that I know how to look at a figure, and but that doesn't mean that those are my emotions when it comes to a painting, that you're not looking at a model, you're looking at a blank piece of canvas. Right. And that's when it gets harder, you know. What am I going to paint today? You know, what's my next move?
Right. So when you stare at that blank canvas, how do you get yourself going?
Well, there's many approaches. Like, for instance, there's sometimes when you have no idea. You start with a blank mind and a blank canvas, and something starts. And there's a part of the process where you start you become intellectual, because, you know, there's a part of the process where you need to start thinking, you know, because if you're somebody that, you know, reason, like if you're like a, you know, reasonable, you know, person that is on his 5, you know, senses, there's a part of the painting that you need to be, you know, concentrated. There's no way that you can be distracted and pretending, because that doesn't, at least I don't know how to do that, right? You can start with that impulse. You can start with that impulse that is emotional, but there's a part of the painting where you start seeing stuff, right? And then that's when the brain starts playing an important role in the emotions. And then whatever you paint, you're gonna realize that you're repeating yourself. There's a visual, you know, language that starts, you know, growing, and you start repeating yourself. You start like, you know, projecting. You start, I mean, saying, okay, why this face is coming, why this, and then you start fighting because you don't want to do the same, but then you end up doing the same, you know. So, you know, each process is different, you know. I do a lot of sketching. So whenever I don't know what to create and I want to do it, I go back to my sketch pad, you know, because that's very intimate. When you have a sketch, you're doing it on the spot, right? So that's valid. For me, that's valid because it's something that you already created, you know, and you can go back to the sketch pad, and then there's a part when you sketch it, and then again, it starts going by itself. Now it's not a sketch anymore. It becomes a painting, or it becomes another drawing, you know. So and then sometimes you do have an idea. Sometimes it's like, I want to do this thing, you know, and but I don't know if that's right for me. I'm not sure if that's right for me. I think I'm discovering that for me is when I don't have any idea. Is when my paintings, I'm more pleased. What I do is when I don't have any idea. You know, when you just let yourself go into the, you know, paintings.
Teach the rest of us that technique.